Afternoon, everybody.
I'll run your slideshow.
Thank you all for being here today. And I think we actually have some snacks for reporters here. I didn't know we were going to have that. Thank you all for being here today. We've got a lot of information to share with you. I'm Phil Washington, CEO of Denver International Airport. So let me get started. I want to cover some areas and then we'll open it up to questions. The first is our record passenger traffic. We announced last week that for 2024 we hit 82.3 million passengers that moved through DEN. That's a 6% increase from 2023. So we are well on our way to 100 million. 3 years ago, we created a vision that we call Vision 100 to make sure that this airport can accommodate 100 million passengers in an airport actually that was designed for 50 million annual passengers. And so the increase is exponential. We initially thought as recently as the beginning of last year that we would not hit 100 million annual passengers until maybe 2032 or so. We're going to hit it much sooner than that, which is really playing into our sense of urgency to make sure that we build enough where this airport can accommodate that many. And so I'll talk about some of the projects. We have also created what I call Operation 2045. We have projections for 2045 when the airport hits 50 years old that we will be at 120 million annual passengers. And so that sort of plays in to kind of what we're doing. In terms of our international passenger, that increased as well, about 15% from 2023. So we remain, as of last year, the third busiest airport in the United States, and we alternate between the fifth and sixth in the world, depending on what London is doing. So that is also a big deal. In terms of air service news, we're excited that United has announced to begin the first nonstop flight to Rome starting on May the 1st. So we will start that, and that is daily flights. And also the arrival of Lufthansa's three A380 aircraft, which is the largest passenger aircraft in the entire world, will be here starting service, daily service in May as well. May 1st. In terms of project updates, which is really the bulk of this briefing that we want to get to, the Great Hall, we are nearing the completion. We are getting down. We're in the completion phase right now. And so what we wanted to do today, even though we know that there is some construction fatigue from passengers, it has been very, very tough as the example I like to give is this is like remodeling your house while you're still living in it. That's kind of what we're doing with this airport. It's really never been done at a major airport that I know of where our numbers are increasing, and at the same time we are redoing this airport while our numbers are increasing. So it's not like we can close the whole wing of the airport and do this work. We have to do it while we're seeing our numbers increase. So as you know, the West Security Checkpoint, which is the first of two state-of-the-art checkpoints, we opened that a year ago this month. We renovated the 6 baggage claim areas, 3 on East, 3 on West, and we're starting on the next 6. and construction is underway for our training center, or SIA. As we near the completion of the Great Hall project, what we wanted to do and what we will do today is give you a peek at what it will look like when completed, with a sort of a Colorado-centric vibe to both level 5 and 6, this area where we are now. We are also doing a concourse renewal of the old areas as well, and that's mostly in the A, B, and C concourse. So travelers can expect a number of things. Travelers can expect upgrades to flooring, to ceiling, to the mechanical, plumbing, HVAC systems, and the installation of dynamic displays for airlines. The East security checkpoint that you'll see in one of the slide presentation that I'll show you in a minute will be completed ahead of schedule. It will open in August of this year. So it will be a mirror image of the West security checkpoint. And that East security checkpoint will have 17 security lanes, just like West. And so, again, that East will open with the latest technology in August of this year. And many thanks to our project team, who's done a great job, along with our operations team as well. The A bridge, when we open up the East security checkpoint, we will close the A bridge. We will close that, and people will walk through, after they get through East and West security, they will walk in a sterile environment all the way to, or they can walk all the way to the A concourse in a sterile environment. So we will close all of that off. That will be post-security walking through there. We will move all of that security equipment that's on the A bridge now. We will begin moving that on April the 1st of this year. And that will be a complete walkthrough space with possibly some concessions right there where that A bridge security is. I could see a coffee shop or something like that being there. All right, what we want to do, and by the way, in that hallway, there'll be a separate hallway, so there'll be a bigger hallway where people can walk through after they finish with security. There'll be a second hallway for people to get to the airport office building that will be for the public as well. So we will be building that this year as well. So we wanted to show you some slides of what the Great Hall will look like when it's all said and done, as we begin to wind down the construction. And we have a slide presentation here.
Just need to hold it down if you need it to work.
I'll move over here. So we have the project schedule. Is this working? Okay, it's kind of small. I don't need it. So you can see here, we put the project schedule here. Now, we know that there's a lot of debate on the original start of the project and all of that. I don't get into that. When I arrived here 3.5 years ago, I went before the city council and I said, this is the schedule where we will complete the Great Hall. They approved it from that point. So this is the schedule that we're going with. You can see on the far left, the West security checkpoint complete, February of 2024. What's in parentheses there is the original timeline. So you can see we're ahead of that. June 2024, we opened in February 2024. The bottom here, the second bullet, the East security checkpoint that I just mentioned, it was originally scheduled for March 2026. We're going to open in August of 2025. And you can see the center will open, the training center will open the end of this year, and then all construction substantially complete. The original was summer 2028. We've pulled that to the left for December 2027, and we think we can pull it more to the left and accelerate it even more. Next slide. Great Hall design. This is kind of what we're thinking about here. Next slide. Colorado experience, memorable, less stress and anxiety for passengers. The big thing here is Colorado-centric that we are trying to portray when we talk about both level 5 and level 6. Next slide. Lots of amenities, and we have some better graphics here in subsequent slides, but functional is the key word here. We want it to be functional. We will have concessions. We will have art and entertainment, and the focal point will be a cottonwood tree that we briefed, I think, last week or did a press release on. Next slide. This is sort of the level 6. We're on level 6 right now, and this is sort of the flow. I won't spend a lot of time on this, but on the south end that we're on now, you can see some airlines, some concessions on level 6. And the center, you know, we have United, we have Southwest, we have Frontier in the center. In the north, you can see both east and west security, and then you can see the line that shows people out to the A bridge. Next slide. This is level 5, the level right below us. This is sort of what we're thinking about on the south end, the end we're on now. We're thinking the living room. This is sort of akin to how we thought about Union Station when we put together the Union Station project some years ago when I was at RTD. And we'll show you some graphics of what that will look like. The center, Welcome Home Colorado, that's the theme for the center. We'll show you that. And then on level 5, the Global Gateway, which is where all of our international passengers come in. Next slide. The north end, I'll start there first. We're calling this the Global Gateway. This entrance that you see here, people flying in international, they have arrived. They're coming out into the level 5 area. We will have art displayed, sort of a Native American feel on the art. And I'll show you another angle of all this. We have a lot of art that's in storage right now. We'll bring some of that out, and then we'll have new art as well on the north end. Next slide. This is another angle. We will bring the Jepson statue in. This is looking towards the northwest, I think. Southwest. This area here, the security lanes, we will, on this end, we will have 8 lanes on the north end. So we will maintain 8 security lanes. Next slide. This is also the north end. You can see some of the angles that we will have here. All new flooring and all of that. Next slide. This is a depiction of the A bridge that I was mentioning. The east security that will open in August of next year. The west security is already open. The green area is the sterile area. People walking through, coming through security, they'll walk in that green area to the A bridge. And we will also have people exiting from the A concourse, just like they are now in that same hallway. The blue area is the airport office building access, and so that is non-sterile, a non-sterile area. When you come down the bottom of this green area that you can see, we'll have some exit doors. You've seen exit doors in some airports where you go through, you exit. We will have doors there. People can go down to level 5. They can go down to the baggage area as well, right there in the middle. Next slide. This is the center of the Great Hall right now. You can see, you can't see the light fixtures, but it'll be very, very bright there. We will put a lid on the escalators. So we are working to put that lid on. You can see the information board right there in the middle. Think about the European train stations. If you go to European train stations, you have a big message board up there. That's what we're thinking for that center area. You can see the arrival board there. We have seating. Next slide. This is another sort of view of that center area. Next slide. And then the south end. The south end, next slide. Seating area, concessions, but also very functional. You can see on the top right, we're going to build what we call a building inside of a building that has an elevated area, seating all around. Next slide. You can see a bar area. We're going to build this structure right outside this door on level 5. You can see the stairs on the right side. People can go up those stairs to get to the 6th level or level 6. Eating areas on the balcony that is actually the same level as level 6. You can see some concessions up there. You can see a bar area as well. We will retain 4 security lanes that are out there now, and they will be tucked behind this structure. I don't have a good depiction of that, but they'll be tucked behind there. At the end of the day, we will have 46 security lanes. 46, 17 on east, 17 on west, 4 on the south end behind this structure, and then 8 on the north end as well. Next slide. This is another depiction of the south end. You can see right in the middle, we have these sensory areas that people want to get away from the hustle and bustle of level 5. There's a sensory area they can go in for some quiet. Next slide. The tree, the cottonwood tree, 70 feet tall, no, 60 feet tall and 70 feet wide. Crystals, Swarovski crystals that need low maintenance. And so we did a press release on this that you might have saw about a week ago. This area, we can have entertainment. It's an elevated area at the base where we can have art and entertainment. This will be the place where people will say, meet me at the tree, in terms of our iconic landmark here in the terminal. On the right side, you can see the message board that we will have, so people will not have anxiety, you know, in terms of what time their flight is leaving and that sort of thing. We will have RTD information on here as well, the A-line. Next slide. And then just another angle for the tree itself. And you can see all of the concessions that we will have. On the back side, where we have the airlines right now, the back sides of level 6 here, we have to move those airlines down to what we call interim ticketing until we get this end of the airport finished. So we will move them down this spring or so. We will move all of the airlines that are on the back side of where we are now and on the other side. We will move them down to interim ticketing that's on level 5 in the center. If you come up the escalators right now, you'll see some spaces. We're going to move those airlines in there until we finish this end of the airport. Next slide. I think that's it. Before we open it up to questions, I do want to cover a few other pressing points. The first is the future runway. We are in the pre-environmental phase of a 7th runway. This is the early stages where we do the environmental, so you'll hear much more about that. The great thing about what we're doing as we complete this, as we close out the Great Hall project, if I can go back to that for a minute, is that even though we have a lot more work to do in other projects, there will be very few customer-facing impacts when we finish the Great Hall. Concourse C West, we are going to extend the west, the C West concourse. We're going to extend that 11 additional gates. Once we finish that expansion on Concourse C, we will have done the last available concourse expansion within the 3 existing concourses. Pena Boulevard, we need to improve Pena Boulevard. We are in the midst of the NEPA process. The NEPA process is the National Environmental Policy Act process. That's the environmental process. At the end of that process, we get to what's called a locally preferred alternative, and that is the alternative that will go forward. There's a lot of work in this NEPA process. We do not want to predetermine the outcome of what Pena Boulevard will end up being. We have to go through this process first before we can determine that. And then the last thing, the last couple of things I will mention, the North Terminal expansion. We are going to expand the North Terminal of this Great Hall. To the north, we need to expand the international arrivals area, or the FIS. There's only, 3 carousels in there. We need to expand that. Is it 3 or 4? 3. We need more, and so we're going to expand that because our international travel is expanding. So we will do that, or begin to do that. We want to build, and we're in the early stages of a consolidated rental car facility, or CONRAC, a massive facility of 17,500 vehicles, multi-storied vehicles, and the transport to get from the terminal to that CONRAC. We're in the early stages of that, where we will be able to get rid of Rental Car Row and take the scores of rental car vehicles off the terminal or out of the terminal area and reduce our carbon footprint while we're at it. Den is one of the few major airports without a consolidated rental car facility. And I think that for us to be an even greater airport than we are today, we need a CONRAC. And then lastly, our trains to the concourses. We have 14 new train vehicles, or AGTS, on site. Eventually, we will move towards replacing all of those trains. They are going through, many of them are going through commissioning work right now. 14 of the vehicles are on site. 9 of them are in operation. We will eventually end up with 41 new vehicles. So I will stop there, and I know that there might be a number of questions. If I can't answer them, we have our team here as well. But who wants to be first? Yes, ma'am.
So in the literature we were provided, it said not only are you guys going to be coming in on time or earlier, but also under budget. We haven't talked much about the budget. Can you walk us through that part?
We took to the city council for the completion phase a budget of $1.3 billion. We will finish below that.
How much?
Don't know yet. We got to finish the project first before we know. But I can tell you that I'm a big under budget and ahead of schedule kind of guy. So we will finish under budget.
With the Trump administration zeroing in on federal funding, is there any funding here at
We hope not. We hope not. The completion phase budget is mostly local funding. We are using some federal dollars on things like our baggage modernization and things like that. But our hope as a major hub in the national airspace, that there's no impact for us for funding.
Have you received any indications that that could be at risk?
No, we have not.
Not yet.
No.
When you say local funding, do you mind explaining what is funding this project?
Well, I mean, we have a number of sources of funding. We have rates and charges for the airlines that we use. We have concession revenue. We have parking revenue. And so when we talk about that, that's what's generating that. We have also fees from the rental car operation as well. So all of that really makes its way towards what I call local funding, if you will.
And back to her question, for it to be on time, what was the original timeline and then the completion date for the Great Hall Amenity project?
The original timing?
The completion date.
I don't know. I wasn't here. Now, I really don't know. What I do know is that the timeline that that I took to the city council 3 years ago, a little over 3 years ago, is the timeline that I'm working on, and we're going to beat that. Yes, sir.
Are airline ticket counters on level 5 and 6? Is that what you were showing on that?
There's interim ticketing that we are going to move. There's airlines on this end of the airport, like behind us, like Turkish Airlines and some of the others. Delta, I think, is over there. Those on the outer ring of level 6 on this south end, we need to move them to interim ticketing on level 5 in the center. So if you walk out there, you will see some spaces, 4 spaces.
Hold on, it's running. So he's talking about when you come up from the escalator from the train, there's an area down
Yeah.
here that we're going to have the airlines for a period of time.
Yeah, and we should show you that maybe when you get done here.
But the final layout will have all the airlines back on level 6? Or?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Or just a temporary?
Yeah, there's interim ticketing or temporary on level 5. We're going to put those airlines there starting probably in April or May of this year. We're going to start moving them.
Back to the A bridge.
Yeah.
It'll still be a bridge, right? When you talk about that sanitized area, it's still going to be like a bridge that goes over.
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
yes. Still be sterile, sanitized, and all of that. Yes, ma'am.
What about the roof? I think we're past the original estimate for how long
Yeah.
it lasts.
We get the roof tested on an annual basis, and we just had it stress tested, I think late last year or maybe last summer, and so it's still good. That roof is just durable as all get out.
When you say the roof, you're talking about
Yeah, the Teflon, yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about the construction fatigue, what travelers could
Yeah.
expect, especially as you start to remove the security lines at the living room area?
When I talked about construction fatigue, the Great Hall has been under construction for a long time. That's what I'm kind of talking about. And so we have always thanked the traveling public and our employees too for enduring this long period of construction. But we're getting towards the end of it. And so when we talk about construction fatigue, we know that the traveling public has really been through it over a number of years. And so once we finish the Great Hall, I think the passenger-facing impacts will no longer be there. We'll still have other projects, but it won't impact passengers. We are still building the consolidated rental car facility. We're still looking to expand Concourse C to the west. We're still looking at some other projects, but they won't be customer-facing.
So the customer-facing projects,
Yeah.
You anticipate that will be done in about 2 years?
Yes.
Towards the end of 2027?
Primarily the Great Hall is what I'm talking about, right? We're near completion of that. Yes, sir.
So for the regular traveler who will be passing moments in this space after December 2027, what do you anticipate will be going through their minds?
As they pass through,
As a regular traveler who's in and out of here after December 2027, what do you anticipate will be going through their mind?
they'll be saying what a fantastic airport this is. What they'll be saying is that the iconic nature of the cottonwood tree is the best meeting place in the entire country. They'll be saying what a great job we've done in making this Colorado-centric. They'll also be saying that the revenue that we are generating is extraordinary. Right now, we are the top revenue generating facility in this entire state, and it will increase when we hit 100 million annual passengers.
The West Security hasn't been open for a very long time, and you guys had the launch right into constructing the east.
Yes.
Was there time, did you guys get any information or lessons from operating that west side to any changes you might incorporate in the new east side?
Absolutely, absolutely. The West Security Checkpoint opened 1 year ago this week. 1 year ago this week, and we have many, many lessons that we have incorporated into the East build-out. As a matter of fact, the East build-out, I think the construction time is shortened because of it, because of the lessons that we've learned. And it's not just building these security checkpoints, it's understanding the flow. And so the construction team builds it. It's a perfect life cycle, right, of a project. You have the planning, you have the design, you have the construction, you have the operating, and then you have the disposal 50 years from now, whatever. All of that has worked beautifully with the West, the East, the operations, the construction folks have handed it off to the operations folks. Speaking of West Security, they've made the successful handoff in terms of the flow of the passengers for the security line. They will do the same thing with the East. But we learned a lot of lessons based on all of that and that successful handoff. Yes, sir.
So I was just trying to follow the timeline. Is there going to be any fewer security lines for a brief period? Because you said the A bridge is closing, but
Yes.
then there's a gap of time before the east security checkpoint opens.
We closed the A Bridge security on December the 9th
Okay,
last year,
that's right, okay,
correct?
yeah,
And it's working along with our partner TSA.
yeah.
It's working just how we thought it would. Keep in mind that the state-of-the-art technology that we installed in the West Security, and we'll install the same state-of-the-art in the East and the other lanes that we build. To give you an example of that technology, we went from 140 people per hour per lane to the potential for 240 per hour per lane with the new equipment. And so you've been in there, we've got 5 stations, and you come in, it's not just one by one. The technology is as much of a story than just the lines itself, if that makes sense. So we're able to process more people with the state-of-the-art technology that we have installed. That's making all the difference. Let's go right here first. Oh, okay.
When do you anticipate hitting 100 million?
As I said earlier, we thought as recently as early last year that we wouldn't hit 100 million until like 2032. We think we'll hit it maybe in 2028 or so. Yes, ma'am.
On the north terminal expansion, with it adding concourses and whatnot, when do you think that project would kick off?
It's already kicked off. Yeah, it's already kicked off.
Is
We,
that part of the 2027, like, end date?
No.
Okay.
No.
Something.
no,
Okay.
no. With the north terminal expansion, we have to build what's called a processor facility first. the processor facility, and I don't know if we have a good picture of that in here. The processor facility is sort of, think of it as the base, right? It's the base. It's the base from which additional concourses will emanate from. And so if you look at this facility right here, this is the terminal. We're going to extend this, the North Terminal expand, thus the name, right? We're going to build this facility. It will have additional airline counters. It will have additional security. But we got to build this base, if you will, this base facility first. And this is a better, here's the before and after. You can see there's nothing in this space here. We're going to extend this to this. We're going to build this blue roofed sort of central facility. And then after we build that, where's the terminals at, or the concourses, we will, that will result in additional concourses spinning off that base. And you can see each one of these. The beauty of this is that we can build each one of these in phases, 25 gates each. International capacity on at least one of these wings. And the idea is that those concourses will be walkable where we do not need the train. They will be walkable, and that's a very, very important point. They will be walkable from that base facility, and it will take a load off the train. Yes, ma'am.
How are plans going for an alternative to the train if it goes down?
We're still studying that. We put out a request for information / request for ideas from the private sector. We got a number of ideas. And we're still analyzing where we want to go with that. Yes.
I have another budget question for you. So last month, the Denver auditor had put out some findings saying Denver is at risk of overpaying for renovation projects at the airport. In my first question, you said you're sure you guys are going to come under budget. So I guess my question is, where's the disconnect between them saying that last month, you saying this month, or did something change between then and now?
I don't think anything has changed. We have been saying the same thing, that we think that our processes are working. That does not mean we don't value the findings of the auditor. We take those findings. We agreed with some of the findings. We disagreed with some of them. But we do not think that we are overpaying for services. One of the examples that I gave to one of the findings, I think one of the findings was we may be paying more than the estimate. Like you get an estimate. And one of the examples I gave, and it was public in the auditor's meeting, was, you may have, when you're remodeling your house, you may have an estimate for $500 to get whatever fixed. The contractor comes in, he pulls the stove out, and he says, it was $500, but look what you got here. You didn't even know you had this big hole behind and then he says, hey, I can fix this for another $100. Well, what are you going to do? Are you going to pay the extra $100 when you got the contractor right there? Or are you going to re-procure and bring 3 other contractors in that might take 3 or 4 months to give you another estimate? No, you will probably pay the extra $100 because that was one of the findings. And so while we value the findings, if we don't agree, then I'm going to say I don't agree.
In the construction process, have you guys found those quote-unquote holes behind the oven? Have there been any of those?
In some cases. When you are doing big projects like this, you find surprises. Just like you remodel your house, you find a surprise and you say, oh, didn't realize that was there. And, to stay on schedule, you got to do something. So that was it. Yeah, I think I think there's been some hiccups in the previous project, but I would like them to walk away with knowing that we're building an airport that's going to last for the next 100 years. And that is what we're doing. It is arduous work. Our team, which by the way I think is the best in the country, are being very, very diligent in knowing that this is a long game and that we have to do it right. So that's what I would like for folks to take away.
You talked about the revenue sources that you have coming in. Does that account for all of the budget that you need to do this, or are there federal funds or state funds, public funds that you're still relying on as well?
I think whenever you're running a big operation like this, there is a number of sources. Federal dollars are a piece of the capital stack, if you will. So there are various assumptions that we make in terms of funding, and federal dollars is an assumption that we have made in everything we do in terms of construction and maintenance and operations as well.
And somebody mentioned the funding coming from the Trump administration, but we also know that there's a budget constraints here in Denver itself.
Yeah.
Are there contingency plans being looked at just in case?
Well, let me say, and I think you all know this, we don't use any taxpayer dollars at all. And so what we generate here is what we live on, right? And so, it's very, very important for us to be efficient. It's very, very important for us to make the right decisions, which I think we have. No, I think over the next 12 years, we have what's called a capital improvement plan or program. So it's a CIP. And all of the projects that we have sequenced, these projects that we're talking about are sequenced over that CIP period of 12 years. And it all fits into that 12-year plan. It's inflation built in there. There are assumptions built in there. There's financial assumptions of what we think that our operating costs will be, what we think material costs will be. All of that's in there, and right now it will work. It's working over that period of time.
And just aesthetically, some of these images that we're seeing are very reminiscent of the original design, the original plan for the airport. How much did that come into consideration when you're trying to get to that original vision that their opinion was and what happened?
Well, I don't know if we're trying to replicate the original plan. Because so much has changed over the 30 years. I mean, this month we're celebrating 30 years, the 30th year anniversary for this airport. Yeah, I mean, so much has changed. We have a generation now that does not necessarily want to talk to people when they come to the airport. They want it on their phone, So a lot of things have changed. So while we look at that vision and that design from 30 years ago. And look, kudos to our infrastructure forefathers. You mentioned Secretary Pena, Mayor Webb, and others. We thank them for their vision. But when we look at what's occurring now and when we look at the next 30 years, it's important that we are able to be flexible and adapt to the traveling public. Yes, Bruce.
There's that Weston attached to the south, and then in the future there's going to be that Blue Rift extension on the north. And I'm wondering what possibility you see for having sort of an architectural unity or coordination, given that first famous tinted roof that was meant to evoke prairie life in the past.
Yeah, well, we're going to extend that roof.
That's the south too, that shows.
Yeah. Well, we're going to extend the roof to the north. Okay, so you've got that, So we're going to extend it, because right now it only goes to like right there. So we're going to extend it with that. The south end, you know, there will be concourses emanating from the south end as well. Those concourses, 25 gates each. Yeah, so you can see both the north and the south. It's a better picture. So you can see these concourses emanating from here as well. So aesthetically, I think it will look still iconic with the tents and all of that. And then, of course, we were thinking the same thing when we did Union Station with the peaks at Union Station as well. So we got it on both ends.
Are those solar arrays?
What's that?
That blue roof, is that solar?
No, it's not, but that's a great thought. We will be extending, we have one of the largest solar arrays in the country for any airport right now, our solar fields. We will extend that. We're going to look for ways to extend that, possibly on the roof of that, but don't know right now.
I have a public art question. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, sorry to make you repeat yourself, but if anyone's looking at these renderings of the traveling public and see, you know, all those security lines are going away, is that gonna make for longer wait times at the airport? And do you mind explaining why?
It will reduce the wait times, because keep in mind that we're going to 46 lanes. Right now we have 34 or something like that. So not only are we increasing the lanes, but I talked about the innovative state-of-the-art security equipment from 140 people per hour per lane, going through those lanes, to 240 with the state-of-the-art equipment. So we're actually increasing or decreasing the wait times. And you'll notice, you know, we put up the times, the wait times. You see those out there. I got to say that was probably my biggest contribution to the whole thing. You know, it's like an amusement park. You know, if you stand and you want to know how long, it's a psychological thing.
Regarding the public art, interesting public art, I think a lot of people would be very interested in the tree and other things.
Yeah.
I want to ask about the historic art that has been here at DIA. Sorry that this has been reported before, but the murals that have been here by Leo, I think Tanguma, is that how you say his name? Where are those murals? Are they going to come back in any fashion?
We have those. We have them in storage, and they will come back. We are going to figure out where they, you know, are best positioned, but we see those coming back.
And nothing's going to happen to Lucifer then?
Lucifer is going to stay out there as long as I'm here, because I don't want to be cursed by moving it out of there. So, yes, sir.
Just, in this final situation, you're not switching any drop-off levels, right? Those drop-offs still gonna be level 6?
Yeah, for right now, we're not. But when we build, you know, those new concourses, that blue, the road configuration will stay the same with that. But right now, we're not changing drop-offs or anything like that. No.
Are you gonna actually refresh them? I think level 4, it's 1990.
Yeah.
When you walk in there,
Yeah.
no plugs, no nothing.
We will refresh that. We're doing concourse renewal programs right now. So we talk about a lot of new projects, but we're also renewing all of the old stuff. We're renewing the concourses. We're renewing the restrooms. We're renewing things that are on the concourses right now. And if you go out there, you can see that happening right now. We've done a lot on B. We changed the flooring. You got new furniture out there. We've got the towers for the charging towers. So we're in the process of doing that. It's just not as publicized as the new projects.
And even the entrances in the terminal, when you get dropped off at Fort.
Yes, we're looking at that as well. All right. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.